Hello, Big Man Up Top listeners. It's Ed here.
Hi, it's Joe.
And where are we, Joe?
We are at Big Church Festival, Ed. We are behind the UCB stage. We are on the last day. It is Sunday. And yeah, we thought we would still try and do a podcast.
And also because of Big Church Festival and the stress that it is taken on my body and just general well-being, I'm going to Skegness next week, Joe.
Are you really?
Massive. I can't wait. So we thought we'd just do a little quick recording. We have still got an episode for you this week. We're going to chat a little bit about transfers, but we've not been able to watch much of the football, have we, Joe? Watched a little bit.
Yeah, we have to be honest. We've been in a hotel. We don't camp when we're at Big Church Festival. I think that's for the best because you're about to go to Skegness. So, and yeah, I don't think we'd survive camping, to be honest, Ed.
Well, we tried it famously once before and it didn't end well for you, did it?
I forgot my tent pegs, yeah. So we were in a hotel, managed to watch a bit of Match of the Day last night, Saturday night.
The major thing was City losing, wasn't it? That was a big story.
It was a big story. I thought Spurs actually looked very good. They've had a good start to the season. They've won both games. They haven't conceded a goal. And actually the thing about Spurs in that game was they looked really aggressive off the ball. I think Thomas Frank has got them well set up. Someone like Paulinho in the midfield has really changed their team and just, really aggressive going after the ball. I think a big factor actually in this game as well is that City lost Ait-Nouri quite early on. He was a big part of how they played last week. They played well. They finally got a left back, and the fact that he went off 23 minutes in really changed the way City played. You saw with Spurs' first goal that actually it came down the right wing where Ait-Nouri would have defended, and City just looked a bit lost at the back.
Bit of a naff one for the second goal. I'm not gonna go back on that horse of playing it out from the back again and all my relentless whinging about that, but it wasn't good, was it?
It wasn't good at all. They got a new keeper, James Trafford. He's been there before, but he didn't play for them. And yeah, I think it's going to take a bit of time for him to gel with that defence. I wonder as well if there's a bit of pressure. He's feeling a bit of pressure because there's a lot of talk around a new goalkeeper. They've been talking about Donnarumma coming in. Gosh, it's windy, isn't it?
It's very windy.
might have a bit of breeze there. And yeah, I think the talk of Donnarumma coming in, it feels like he'd be number one. So I wonder if Trafford is trying a bit hard here to show that he can play out from the back.
Absolutely massive win for Arsenal as well.
Huge win for Arsenal, 5-0. Obviously, they were at home to Leeds, so you'd expect them to win that. But they looked good. Again, new signings playing well. What did you think of the Arsenal?
Well, my personal thing was I enjoyed Gyökeres's celebration. He mimicked running his hands through his hair. I think he'd had a bit of criticism that he was focused more on his hair in the first game than actually playing well. So, and he got 2 goals. Listen, fair play.
He did, yeah. It looks good. His first goal was a really good run. I think that's something they were missing last year with a number 9, someone who's strong and powerful, can run through a defence. I think that the cloud over this result for Arsenal really is the injuries to Saka and Ødegaard. They look quite serious. I think particularly Saka was clutching at hamstrings that kept him out for a few weeks last season. So I think as big as a win this is, obviously there's a lot of highlights. Those 2 injuries will be the takeaway for them.
Any other big talking points from the Premier League on Saturday? Obviously, we're missing the Sunday games, Joe. We're recording this on Sunday afternoon, so we've got no idea what's going on. But yeah, any other talking points from Saturday?
I think that the thing that I noticed actually is that there's no real team. I think if you're looking at those promoted teams, all of them already have a win. Burnley beat Sunderland 2-0 yesterday, and that's a big result for them. They looked really good at home, like they have done for the last year in the Championship. And I think I just noticed there was no real teams that have had a bad couple of weeks apart from Wolves, maybe. Brentford got a win as well. So it feels quite even down at the bottom. I think West Ham as well, obviously forgetting about the Friday game there, because there's just so much football on Ed.
So much football, and I think it's still early days, isn't it? But you're right. It's great to see teams getting off the mark.
It is, yeah, and I think there's a lot of talk of you fear for Brentford, you fear for West Ham, you fear for Wolves. Brentford looked good in this game. I think their fullbacks looked really positive going forward. They've got a new right back, Michael Coyote, really good on the right. Rico Henry looking good on the left. I was more encouraged by Brentford in their game this week. And I think Dango Ouattara for them is a great forward, a great signing. So yeah, I think obviously it's early days, but it feels like it's more level at the bottom.
And obviously the big news in football, which we won't touch on, but is Stoke winning 3 in a row, still 100% record, top of the Championship, which is, that's the big story, isn't it, Joe? Really?
Yeah.
Sure.
I think the big story here really is, as we have done the last couple of weeks, and let's talk about Morecambe. Again, the takeover has gone through. They have a team again. They've got this new manager, 30 years old. He's scrambled together a team this week, and they won. They won in the last minute, and just incredible scenes. What a moment! I don't think Morecambe fans would go as far to say as it's all been worth it for that moment, but it's moments like that in that moment you just forget all the stuff that's gone on the last few months. That it's an incredible moment for that football.
And it's been a really fascinating thing as Punjab Warriors have come in. Obviously, they are a Sikh-based consortium, the first Sikh owners in the Football League, I believe, and they brought the new manager in as well. And one of the things that really struck me was they have made their faith front and centre of how they want to run their football club. That they were talking about, honour, respect, and ethics, high ethics. They talked about something to do with transparency. I think they said we're going to be so transparent, you're going to be sick of us. But they just made a point that look, like our faith shapes who we are, and that is going to shape how we run this football club. And listen, fair play, and I actually think it just makes it's a huge opportunity for, like, are there Christian owners that could step in and run a football club in a similar way? Maybe, who knows? But it's just very interesting to see, isn't it?
It really is. I think it's kind of this a beacon of light that's kind of shone in a situation that's been so dark. I think you couldn't ask for a better start to ownership to hear that kind of thing. That's all we want from football club owners, is that they care about the club, they care about how it's run, and you're right. Let's pray for more of that. Some Christian owners to come into football.
Well, we're going to play an interview shortly that I did with Stewart MacGregor from ARC, which is, so he's a football agent, he's a Christian. I just got chatting with him, finding about him, about his job, about how his faith impacts the way he goes about being a football agent, which was, it's really, really fascinating. But I think that it was a particularly important interview for us to release now because of the time of year. Obviously, we're getting towards the end of the transfer window. And I think as well, we've seen examples of transfers sort of going well. I think about Eberechi Eze to Arsenal, and there seems to have been a lot of goodwill there, from Palace fans. And then we think about transfers not going well at all. I'm thinking particularly of Isak at Newcastle and the situation there. So transfers, they can be all over the place, can't they?
Yeah, and it's only heightened by social media as well. I think as a Liverpool fan who is following this Isak situation quite closely, you are looking for any tweet, any post on Instagram that is hinting that he's coming or going, and everyone's got an opinion on this kind of thing. And you're right, these two situations are polar opposite in the way that the player has dealt with the situation. Let's talk about Eze first, I think. It just feels really amicable, the way that he's left, really respectful of the fans. And again, these two players they've just created history with their clubs. Eze's just won the FA Cup with Crystal Palace and the Community Shield. Isak's won the Carabao Cup with Newcastle. Both huge moments for that football club. And Eze's come out and said, I've had the best time here. I've had 5 years at Crystal Palace. I've loved it here. It's felt like a family. I'm so proud of what we've achieved, and then now I'm going to move on. You will not find a single Crystal Palace fan that is bitter about that. I think they're all going to be sad because he's a fantastic player. He really made their team tick, and of course it's sad to see your best player leave. But I don't think any Palace fan will begrudge the way he has left this club. You compare that to Isak, who he was a fan favourite last year. They all absolutely loved it, and I think the lack of transparency from him and the noise around him wanting to move way before he released that statement last week has really not stood him in good stead with Newcastle fans, and it's a real shame to see.
And it's sort of one of those things where what I sort of asked Stu in my conversation, which we'll get to in a minute, was about the role that agents play. And I think I was kind of, before the interview, I was expecting him to be like, well, actually, agents get painted in a bad light, and we're not all that bad type thing. And his answer was the opposite. He was like, no, it is a really difficult situation. It's a hard industry, and there are a lot of agents who are just thinking about themselves and their commission and all that. So it really just reinforced to me that like these guys in the industry just need praying for, don't they?
Yeah, and I think we need to pray for them, and we need to pray for more people like Stu. I think he's a Christian in that industry. He has an opportunity to be different there in an industry that is becoming more and more self-centered, and even things like we're getting to know agents' names. We're getting to know Tyler Alexander-Arnold, who is quite central to Trent's exit and all the noise around that, all the money that has exchanged hands there, and we're getting to know more and more of these people that we've never known before, really. So we need to pray for more people like Stu who are like, well, we have an opportunity here to be different, and kind of take that step back and prioritise other things.
Well, let's have a listen to that interview right now with Stewart MacGregor.
So Stewart MacGregor, thank you so much for joining us on the Big Man Up Top. How are you doing today?
Doing well, thanks. Doing really well. It's a busy period just now, but looking forward to the start of the season when things quieten down a wee bit, but everything is good.
I think there's a bit of maybe it's a misconception, maybe it isn't, that sometimes the agents are driving these player moves. How true is that? Are you just sort of following the wills of your clients? How does that work?
So I suppose everybody would be different in that regard, Ed. We very much, when we first take a client on, part of the onboarding process is to identify what their career objectives are. So first and foremost, that will then help us understand whether a move is the right move or not. So ultimately, one of the desires that we have as an agency is to have as many of our clients playing regular first team football as possible. So there is part of the academy journey where maybe playing 10 or 12 games a season for the first team is part of the development. But what we don't want is 24, 25-year-olds filling up slots on the bench. So everything that we do and everything that we challenge, we hold accountable the player based on what they said their objectives were. And at that point in time, that's when we devise a career plan to then help mitigate the risk of it failing. And ultimately, it serves us really well. There are many deals that take place, and as a regular football fan, you'll see it on various media outlets. You'll see transfer news and speculation and then confirmation. And you'll think to yourself, does it seem like a very good move? That doesn't seem as if it's the right time, or it's too big a step. And ultimately, those challenges are then probably landed by the agent pushing his client too far, too quick. Fundamentally, they need, in my opinion, foundational development so that when they get to the top, they can stay at the top versus cutting corners to get to the top quickly. So it does depend. There are a lot of deals that are driven largely by agents' relationships with clubs, and that's fine. We choose to do it a bit differently to make sure that our clients are successful.
I'd be really interested to know. Obviously, I'm conscious that there's probably a bunch you can't tell me, and that's fine. But I'd love to know maybe an example of when you think a move has gone really well for one of your clients, and then maybe like, you know, a lesson that you've learned from something that maybe didn't go so well. Like I wondered if you had any sort of examples to share with us.
There's probably one in particular that, you know, we signed as an academy player. He was freed from his academy during COVID. We then worked very closely with him and his family, and now is playing at a successful level in England. So there's no one unique journey, and what we identify is that every single one of our clients is different. But what we do is try and get to know the person as thoroughly as possible, because the aspects of what we do as a business is really straightforward. What's most important is the individual that you're representing in that case. And in terms of one not going well, unfortunately that tends to be goalkeepers. So you have a challenge. There's maybe 3 of them fighting for one spot. The third choice goalie is a training goalkeeper, so he's probably all right and understands what his purpose is and how he's there to help the other 2. But I had a goalkeeper who I personally thought it was too early for him to become the training goalkeeper, but it was a big club, great facilities, it was a good deal, and so he wanted to pursue it, and so we did. It was fine, it served the purpose that it was due to, but then because of that I managed to get him a move potentially to a higher level than I would have done had he not taken that opportunity. So I think if you analyse and understand what your clients' objectives are, what their career goals are, and what their dreams and aspirations are, then that's how we measure success. Because a lot of outside parties, Ed, will suggest that success is, you know, people say, you just need that one player to make it big. You know, and if I use Harry Kane's agent as an example, it's his brother. He doesn't have any other players. It's just his brother that he looks after. Well, that's a successful business model for him. So our ideals and what we want to do is to make sure that those that put their trust in our business measure success themselves. So if they're happy and they feel as if they're succeeding in their objectives, then we've done our job.
We are the big man up top. We talk all things football, but also about all things faith as well. And we've noticed, as you know, many people you know, across the country have noticed that there's this real rise in footballers with faith speaking out about their faith and really talking about how that is such a huge part of who they are, you know, as a person. I wonder if you've noticed that from a sense of, you know, from players, that sort of more purpose driven aspect of who they are as a person is impacting things like transfers.
Probably not, I suppose, directly. I've seen the same influx of media articles and players, you know, showing T-shirts, "I belong to Jesus," and something similar when they score a goal, and so there's no doubt that that's a lot more prominent, or indeed it always was, and it's just now being, you know, publicised. I think though I've had, in terms of percentage wise, I maybe have 10% of our clients just now that have a faith and believe in God. You know, that's really easy, because before we go to discuss and negotiate a deal, you know, we sit in the car and we'll pray. You know, we'll pray about opportunities, we'll pray about how it's received, we'll pray about the negotiation. Now, I do that on my own for all our clients, which they may or may not realise, but there's definitely a shift, and I can see it, and I'm only in the game because, as far as I'm concerned, I was obedient to God's instruction. I had absolutely no desire to do it. So fundamentally, the reason that I'm here isn't to make, you know, £1 million a year so that I have a strong tithe. Now, ultimately, that would be ideal. That would be the plan in the future. But it's not. The biggest satisfaction that you can get, I probably experienced it at Easter time when I had the client that we signed. He was our first player. Him and his partner came to church for the first time, and that was after 10 years. As a Christian operating in this space, there isn't a better feeling. It just doesn't exist than, you know, standing in worship next to the client that was responsible for or partly responsible for the journey kicking off. And so I'm very outspoken about it. Like our social platforms communicate that that's what we are. And also the standards that I hold are those standards that are from the Bible. You know, I in this industry, and any other, but in this industry, I have to be an example. And that might not go down well in certain circles, which I'm okay with. But I have an opportunity and a platform in an industry which, you know, I loved as a kid growing up and watching teams, although my team's in disarray at the moment, so I won't go there. But I think it's a responsibility. So as much as I don't see much of it directly with our clients, and I don't know how many of those players that you referenced that are being more public about it, I don't know how many of those players' agents have a faith. So they might have it, but maybe their agent doesn't. But what I do know is what you can put to flight with two is significantly greater than one. So somebody said to me years ago, why don't you just represent Christians? It's like, well, in this industry, it's quite hard to find out who they are. But ultimately, we identify those values in people, whether they have a faith or not. And then that's how our business becomes more credible. That's how our relationships with clubs evolve and strengthen, because they know the type of player, not necessarily from an ability or technical perspective, but they know the type of human being that they're getting. So it's hugely important, but there's definitely something stirring. There's definitely something moving. And if we all play our part, then hopefully it'll manifest.
And just to sort of go in a little deeper on that, I think it's fair to say that the agents have kind of this bad reputation, and I think a lot of it feels to me like it's unfounded. So in this industry, like you say, that is, you know, it's very cutthroat, and it's very I imagine it can be very dark and difficult to navigate at times. How do you practically live out that faith in your sphere?
Really good question. You have to be very deliberate with it, because like you said, it can be a very difficult and dark industry. Look, a lot of the perceptions of agents that I've came to experience in 10 years, a lot of them are accurate, and way too many. If the industry has one, then it's one too many, because you're dealing with somebody else's career. So from a servitude perspective, it's not about you, it's about how you can support whoever it is you're serving become successful. So, I mean, I'm very deliberate on a regular basis to make sure that inputs that I get, you know, whether it's from a fellowship perspective, whether it's from the leadership team at the church I'm going to, whether it's the senior pastor of the church, it could be my wife, but that encouragement and knowing who you are and being confident in what God says is so vitally important, because it's not about what you do. So I can be as righteous as I possibly can. Look, I'm going to fall short, but ultimately we have a role model in Jesus that our aim as humans, whether in industry or not, is to try and close that gap as best we can. That ultimately will hopefully get us the well done, good and faithful servant. But it's what other people do, and it's how that affects you, and it's how you let it affect you. So it could be anything from words of affirmation, at times where you're like, no, I'm not accepting that. That's not coming in. That's not who God says I am. So, we're full steam ahead. It can really get you at times. It really can. So you have to be mindful. I am hugely mindful. And if I ever get to the stage where I'm thinking this isn't good, then I'll be pretty open about where I'm at and where I'm coping, where I'm maybe not. Because ultimately, the client sees what they get. They don't see what you've went through to get it, or the challenges. You can take a client from non-league football to the championship in 2 and 3 years. As soon as they get there, they've got bigger and more global-sized agencies chasing them for their signature. So you could all that input and all that support, it just goes. So something I was taught years ago before I was in football is that you have to get good at people leaving you. And as much from a client perspective, you can separate the two. It's not like a friend or a family member or a spouse. it's a client. But when you sow so much and you do so much behind the scenes for that individual, it can really test your resolve. So I think staying true to what God says and what God says that I am is probably the only thing that's allowed me to function in the industry for 10 years. Like, I had a conversation last week where I actually don't know how people operate in this industry without faith. Like, it's challenging. So where do you get your, I don't know, a lot of people call it a crutch. Where does that come from? Where does it exist? How do you replenish yourself? Because if you're serving others, it's very easy to get empty, so you have to continuously focus on refreshing and replenishing yourself, your soul, your whatever it might be. So I honestly don't think I could do it without it. I genuinely don't.
We love a good old-fashioned number 9 on this podcast. And so the question I've got for you is, if you were a manager and you were putting together your dream 11 of all time, who would you have playing in your big man up top role, your number 9 role? Who would you have up there?
Oh, what a question. I wasn't ready for that one. Growing up, it would probably be Alan Shearer, I think. Had so many different facets to his game, scored so many different types of goals, led the line really well, was a leader and was incredibly reliable. So, like, I work in obviously a revenue generated industry from a recruitment perspective, and you would always look at your staff, i.e. the players, how much revenue do you think each one of them would provide? Going into a season knowing that you're getting 20-25 goals is, like, as a manager, if that was me, then that's exactly the type that I would want, and somebody also that's willing to go there in a dressing room if it was required.
And he was
just a great player to watch. Like that, the kind of Newcastle team of the 90s was probably, as I was maturing to a stage that it wasn't cool to have posters on your wall. But he was definitely there, and guys like Les Ferdinand and that sort of type. But I'm old fashioned. Like, have your big man up top doing the things that you want a big man up top to be doing. Let's not complicate it, but now we have false 9s and 2 9s and false 10s.
We can't be doing with that, Stu, on this podcast.
Give me my number 9 and give me 20 goals a season, and I'm happy.
Stu, thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate it, and
pleasure.
We're just really grateful to have you on the Big Man Up Top.
My pleasure.
Well, that was great to hear from Stu. Great chat with Ed, and I think that's about it for this week, Ed, isn't it?
Yeah, well, I think it's been a lovely weekend, hasn't it, Joe? But we've got the lovely sounds in the back. Who's that on stage playing right now?
That is the Gaudis. They are a country duo. We play them a lot on UCB1. It's just been a lovely time, Ed, hasn't it? Who's been your favourite person that you've met?
I've got to say, Pat Barrett was fantastic. Turns out he's a golfer as well. So
I was concerned about that. He turned up this morning at around 10 a.m. and lovely guy, smelt fantastic, and you kind of clocked his hat, and he said, "Oh yeah, it's a golf hat," and I just see your eyes light up, and I go, "Oh God!" It
was great, and I went and chatted with him about handicaps. It was lovely. It was lovely stuff. But no, it's been a great weekend, we're sorry that this week's episode is not as long as our usual ones, but we wanted to just bring you a little bit of a chat, and most importantly, bring you the good stuff, which is this interview with Stewart MacGregor. So thanks very much for listening, and make sure you follow, like, subscribe, do all that lovely stuff. Big thank you to Anthony, who is back home, who is going to be just editing this into something. We're very grateful for all his hard work, and if you want to get in touch with the podcast, podcasts@ucb.co.uk, and we'll see you next week, won't we, Joe?
We will, and thank you to Lizzie as well for filming us. Go and check that out on YouTube. She's an Arsenal fan. Are you happy? Yes, she is.
She's nodding. Yes, very good. See you next week.
Bye.